What's up everybody, Coach Mills here, coming at you with a brand new Valorant video. And in this video, we're going to be breaking down the top Valorant agents in patch 2.08 because the meta is dynamically changing right now, and we're going to be breaking it down using analytics from pro matches so we know exactly what is the best characters, what characters are most likely to be dominant soon, and what characters you should be picking up for your ranked games. Now go to the GameLeap website in the links down below for in-depth advanced guides and VOD reviews over every single one of these agents down below. But without further ado, let's jump into the video. Now, a lot of this is going to be based on NA, the recent tournaments, but I'm going to interject some things about EU and Korean meta and the differences, and I'm going to talk about how the meta is probably going to develop as we move forward and the differences between the pro meta and ranked meta. So let's talk about it all, but let's first go through the S through F tier based on the NA pick rate. So first off, in the S tier, we have three agents. We have Sova, Astra, and Killjoy. Now, Astra has all of a sudden just super spiked in pick rate in NA. So for a while, Astra wasn't seeing any play, then she was allowed to be played in tournaments, and now out of nowhere, Astra is freaking busted, apparently. According to all these pros and according to the pick rate, Astra's just seeing a crazy amount of play right now. Now we're gonna have to wait and see if the other regions follow suit with the Astra pick rate, but it's looking like Astra is just becoming a stronger and stronger agent, and she's basically like an auto-include on a lot of team compositions. Insane stalling ability, she can fill that controller and sentinel role combined. Very powerful utility. Astra's definitely a character that I would suggest mastering if you're looking for a flexible controller pick or if you're looking for a controller to fill to in your ranked games. Now, of course, Sova's at the top of the list here. We're seeing some regions play Sova a lot less as Sky gets more pick rate. So specifically, I'm gonna kind of spoil you a little bit. Sky is all the way down at the C pick rate based on NA, but in other regions, she's picked a lot more, and Sova is kind of being dropped down because Sky is like a replacement. They fight for similar spots because Sky can be used as an information gatherer as well. That being said, still in NA, Sova's super essential. He's the most picked character right now, and I honestly don't see that changing anytime soon with NA basically not playing that much Sky, all things considered. Now, Killjoy has basically won the Sentinel War. Killjoy sees way more play than Cypher. There are still some teams that are holding on to Cypher a little bit, like Sentinels, but all things considered, Killjoy is just seeing way more pick rate across the board every single region. And while Cypher is still a good character, it's just Killjoy does more intrinsically powerful things, and it seems that every single team needs to have one of these type of characters, either Killjoy or Cypher, and it's looking like Killjoy is basically an auto-include in most compositions now. Now moving on to the A tier, we have four characters in the A. We have Raze, Jett, Phoenix, and Viper. And remember, this is based on pick rate. This is not my personal take on it, but I'm gonna give you my 2 cents about where the characters are gonna be changing as we break this down. Now, Raze is extremely dominant, being played on a lot of different maps. She has a lot of flexibility with the utility, and the fact that she's really insane on maps like Split means that she's having a very high pick rate on that map, where maybe on some other maps, like for instance Ascent, she's not being played as much. Now, that being said, we are slowly reducing the amount of duelists being played across the board, especially in other regions. We just broke down a video where we broke down a no duelist composition run by Team Liquid, and I do think that Raze starts to becoming one of those characters that can be cuttable, and I do think that her pick rate is going to slowly start to decline, but she definitely is more unique than a lot of other duelists, so maybe she will see play based on the power level of her abilities alone. Now, of course, we got to talk about Jett and Phoenix. Jett is the best AWPer. She's extremely good, and some teams basically always play her. Teams like TSM Wardell that really want to abuse the operator aspect of her, and then teams like FaZe and Baby Bay really smorging in, you know, going in really hard with the knives. Jett's still an amazing character, and she definitely sees a ton of play, and she's still a really, really good pick for ranked. Phoenix, kind of similar ballpark, but instead of Jett, which is a character that I think has really high specific talents, Phoenix is like more of a catch-all. He can be put in a composition to give them a little bit of everything, a little bit of delay, a little bit of entry, and he has a very powerful ultimate. So some teams, I think, are picking him as like a placeholder, when eventually they're gonna find a character that probably fits the composition a little bit better. Now, the last character we gotta talk about in A tier is Viper, and Viper just shot up out of nowhere in NA from a character that just saw no play to all of a sudden being A tier, seeing a ton of play, and I think it's not stopping here. If Viper doesn't get touched, I think that Viper is going to become essential based on her trajectory so far. we just broke down that no duelist composition by Liquid, and honestly, Viper looked freaking nuts. And I think that Viper is absolutely so brutal to play against. She effectively has AoE on a cooldown that can just keep being reused over and over again, can cover multiple sites, and has the flexibility to be used as a retaking tool as well. All in all, I think Viper is someone that is going to dramatically change the meta along with Astra, and these two characters are really moving the entire meta in their direction to a meta far less about individual gunplay and far more about the ability, intricacies, and the team play aspect, which, depending on who you ask, you might like or dislike that. But honestly, Viper might just be one of the best characters for you to play right now, especially in ranked. I know you can get a ton of free wins with her because of how much value she brings to the table automatically, but if she doesn't get touched, she just might be one of the most essential characters in the game. So I definitely suggest start learning the character, because I wouldn't be surprised if nothing happens, Viper's in S tier before too long. Now the next characters that we gotta talk about in the B tier, based on pick rate and NA challengers, it's Sage, Omen, and Reyna. Now, holy shit, Omen had a fall from grace. From the most picked character to all the way down here, and it's really because of both Viper and Astra. Now, Viper is typically never played as a solo controller, but Astra and Viper together are working extremely well together, or just playing Astra in a completely different composition. Astra can basically fill Omen's role. And you got to think about why Omen was picked in the first place, right? Omen was picked as a fold to Brimstone because Omen could do more than Brimstone, right? While both characters could smoke, in fact, Brimstone could smoke for longer. Omen had smokes that could be used multiple times over the course of a game because it had a cooldown. He had up to like 5, 6, 7 smokes potentially, depending on how long the round lasts and how long he's living. He had a paranoia that could be comboed. He had a really good ultimate when used appropriately, and his teleport ability could get some value. But then you got Brimstone, who his stem beacon didn't get any value really, and his molly was okay, but he had one of those, and then his smokes, other than that, he didn't really have any great way to play with his team, honestly. But then if you compare Omen directly to Astra, Astra can do all the jobs that Omen can. While she can't necessarily combo in the same way as Omen, she can definitely still flush people out of cubbies or force them into unoptimal situations where her team can follow up on that player. And on top of that, Astra's ultimate is better than Omen's ultimate, and Astra has up to 5 freaking smokes. That is absolutely nuts. Then you take all that combined, and then you added the fact that Astra can stall for a ridiculous amount of time. Pro players have been saying that she can stall for 35 seconds plus, and Omen can't do that. Omen could maybe frag, Omen could smoke off, he has one paranoia, but Astra could just stall, smoke, use her concussions, use her suck. Astra is freaking nuts, guys, and it's really pulling a lot of the pick weight away from Omen, and until Astra sees some big hit, I think that it's gonna stay this way. And the thing is, if you're gonna play a secondary controller, like double controller, I think it makes far more sense to play a Viper with an Astra than an Omen. So I wouldn't be surprised if Omen just even trickles down even more than this. We'll have to wait and see. It depends on if Astra gets touched from now on. And of course, we gotta make sure to watch how some of the other regions follow suit, because right now they're not playing a lot of Astra when NA is playing a ton of Astra, but we don't have a lot of data to support long-term pick rate or how things are gonna change over time. The last character that we gotta talk about in B tier, it's Reyna. Now, Reyna's still a good character, good agent. She could be played in a double duelist composition just fine. I think it really comes down to the type of players you have on your team, whether or not you want a Reyna, because in ranked, of course, Reyna could pop off and carry. But if you're thinking about pro play, you gotta think about all the characters that you're getting rid of, right? You're starting to see that some of these characters are so good that you kind of want them in every composition. I mean, if we just took the top row of S and A, Viper, Killjoy, Astra, Sova, that's 4 characters. What's the 5th character? You're gonna play 1 Jet, Raze, Phoenix, Reyna, who are you gonna play? Essentially, we got put in a situation where characters have been buffed and nothing has really been nerfed, so it's not obvious what it should be played. It's kind of like a lot of things are good, and every time you sub one character for another, you have to think about what you are actually losing, and it becomes really hard to build these team compositions. I do not feel envious of coaches at all, because there are so many amazing tools to pick from, and there are so many powerful characters, and it's kind of hard to pick the perfect combination. But when you have someone that's an insane rifler and an insane lurker, let's take Tens for example, right? He's been popping off on Reyna, and it makes perfect sense for him to play that character. But if you don't have someone who could fill that role on your team, you can get more value out of some of these really powerful abilities instead, and you don't have to utilize the mechanical aspect all that much, and you can play something different and still get a lot of impact. But if you do have that person on your team, then Reyna could be perfectly viable. Now moving on to the C tier, don't roast me now because this is just based on exactly what NA is picking, but C tier is Cypher, Skye, and Breach. 3 characters that are very powerful, but in NA, they are just kind of lacking. First off, let's talk about Cypher, because I do think that Cypher is very, very strong. He's just taking a backseat right now because of all the other powerful options. You don't really want to have Cypher and Killjoy, and Killjoy is kind of winning, especially when Killjoy synergizes with Astra so well. I do think that stalling right now is being done a little bit more than retaking, and I do think that Killjoy's ultimate is far more powerful intrinsically than Cypher's ultimate. So I am not surprised this is happening. I'm kind of sad because I love Cypher, and I don't really think that Cypher needs to be buffed or anything like that. I think Cypher is really strong of a character and perfectly viable in ranked, and even pro players. I mean, Dapper's popping off with Cypher. It's just that there are a lot of other options now, and he's not just clear-cut the best anymore, and Killjoy is so damn powerful. So maybe a Killjoy nerf down the line, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Now, Skye and Breach, it just seems that NA doesn't really like set combo plays. Like, Skye and Breach are seeing a lot of play in EU, and they're seeing a lot of play in, specifically Korea loves freaking set combo plays between Breach and a duelist, for instance. But NA doesn't really like that much. They would rather not just go for these really aggressive combos. And honestly, we don't really know who's right. We don't know. We won't know until LAN. We don't know if NA's take on the matter is better and maybe set combos are a little bit overrated, or if set combos are the way of the future and Korea's just gonna roll and smoke everybody. We're gonna have to wait and see, but Skye is seeing more and more pick rate, and I said this a while ago that I thought that Skye, it was atrocious that Skye was seeing like no play in NA, and now she's seeing quite a bit. But I wouldn't be surprised if she sees more in the future, because I think that Skye is perfect in a composition that lacks duelist firepower. You could play Skye maybe in replacement of Sova, right? And now all of a sudden you have all these flashes that can be used to retake point with characters that are not duelist, and Skye can create that initiation for your team. So maybe in a duelist-like composition, you could play Skye because she can perform the pop flashing role by just quick flashing her bird around a corner, or she can gather information with it in a traditional way like Sova as well. I think it makes her a flexible character, but I guess we're gonna have to wait and see on all that. Now, the last characters we gotta talk about are the F tier characters, Yoru and Brimstone. Yoru, it's obvious, we've been saying that he needs a buff for so damn long. He doesn't see any pick rate, he doesn't see any pick rate across any regions, very, very little play. He needs a damn buff. I said it before, I would really love if they just got rid of his footstep ability and you pressed a button and for like 3 seconds you were dead silent, even if you were running. Maybe even if you were firing, that one might be a little bit overpowered, but the running thing for sure, I think that would make it really strong for Yoru to be able to, like, you know, get to ramp, activate it, run all the way to vents, and if no enemy physically saw him, he could have snuck in there without making any noise going max speed. It would really play with the perceptions of enemies. I think that would be a great way to buff him. Personally, now, they don't listen to me, but I think that would be great, and I really don't think it would make him overpowered. It would just make him a lot more satisfying, fun to play. It would be really, you know, scary when you're, like, sneaking in, and if an enemy looks, you're fucked, but if you make it, no one can hear you. I think that'd be kind of cool. And then Brimstone, it just makes sense he's not seeing a lot of play in NA. I mean, Omen is freaking only seeing, like, 30% pick rate right now, and Omen's so damn strong, and Viper and Astra are seeing crazy amounts of pick rate. It makes a lot of sense. EU is still playing Brimstone. A lot of NA pros say that that's because they just haven't caught on to the Astra wave yet. They're behind on the Astra wave, and Astra will take over eventually. And I'm prone to agree. I mean, honestly, I think Brimstone is just way underpowered of a character. We talked about how there's so many ways that he's inferior to Omen, and there's so many ways that Astra could get more value than even Omen, so Brimstone is like 3 pegs down, and I think that his stem beacon needs to be reworked in some way. I think that ability sucks ass. I think that it's just a waste of an ability. I know you can get some value with it sometimes, but really, least versatile, least team play oriented. I would definitely not suggest picking up Brimstone or Yoru right now, but maybe Yoru will get a big buff sometime soon, and then he'll get the Viper treatment where he just shoots up. Definitely, we're gonna have to wait and see on that one. But go to the GameLeap website in the links down below for high quality, in-depth advanced guides, VOD reviews, tips, and tricks over every single one of the agents we talk about in this video, plus more. Do yourself a favor and access all the high quality guides right now before it's too late. But thank you so much for coming by. I really hope you enjoyed the video. That's all I got for you today. I love your faces, and I'll see you tomorrow.